In 2016, Patrick Clair and the team over at Elastic delivered an exceptional title sequence for Netflix's The Crown. And not only are the visuals skillfully executed, but the sequence itself also captures the journey of the protagonist, Queen Elizabeth II, perfectly. So in today's video, we're going to break down the protagonist's evolution in this piece, and we'll even touch on some of the points from Clair himself on how he and his team approached the royal family story. So let's get into it. Now, before we dive into the visuals of this title sequence, there are two things we should address. First, there's a lot that has come out in the news recently, and this video is in no way related to or covering these current events. This video is solely meant to discuss the title sequence of the Netflix drama series. Additionally, in order to break down the visuals of this title sequence, we should have a clear understanding of what the show The Crown is all about. So for anyone who is unfamiliar, here's a brief overview. The Crown is a historical drama that chronicles the reign of Queen Elizabeth II and the significant events that shaped the second half of the 20th century. In each season of the show, a particular period of the Queen's life is covered, portraying the personal and political challenges faced by the royal family, as well as the many relationships and evolving dynamics of the British monarchy. Overall, it's a glimpse into the complexities of both the public and private lives of the royal family members, especially Queen Elizabeth II. But the series kicks off with a bit of backstory, which is important to establishing Queen Elizabeth's character evolution. At the start of the series, King George VI, then Princess Elizabeth's father, developed some health challenges towards the end of his time as king, including Buerger's disease, a type of blood vessel inflammation, as well as lung cancer. And although he remained king until his death in 1952, Princess Elizabeth, his eldest daughter, helped with some of his duties towards the end of his reign. Thus began Elizabeth's role as next in line to the throne, balancing the responsibilities of being a daughter and a potential new world leader. Upon King George's death, Elizabeth becomes queen and is immediately thrown into the new duties of her new role. She also quickly realizes that every action and decision of hers would now be under public scrutiny 24/7, effectively finding herself under a microscope. And for anyone, let alone a 25-year-old young woman, that's a lot of sudden pressure to take in, and a ton of expectation to live up to too. But as queen, she understood the sacrifices that would need to be made. She would have to put aside personal aspirations, wants, and desires, and make the monarchy in the United Kingdom her primary focus. When watching the series, you can see this backstory play out in a rich way. On the surface, you see her evolution from a young princess to one of the longest reigning monarchs of our time. But on a deeper, more personal level, you see her character evolve from that of a young woman thrown into one of the most powerful positions on Earth and transform into a symbol of strength, continuity, steadfastness, and resilience throughout decades of global and even personal changes. The perception of the Queen throughout her reign, the balancing of her private and public life, and the constant struggle it creates as she matures into her leadership role, as well as a wife and a mother, is where the true story takes place. Her internal struggle about this balance is what the story is all about. And yes, while there are global events taking place around the Queen and her family, it is this balancing act of being a kingdom's steady hand in the public eye, while also wanting to have her own individuality that we as an audience are able to connect with. We can relate to her perception struggles in our own worlds, but maybe on a much less public scale. As humans, we all want to be our best authentic selves, do our very best, and be perceived well while doing it too, including Queen Elizabeth. That shared connection is what draws us into her story. So how did Patrick and the team over at Elastic capture Queen Elizabeth's character evolution? Through the physical material elements of the crown itself. Now that is some symbolism. In a 2016 interview with The Guardian, Patrick Clair stated that he wanted to capture something that could speak to the depth and complexity of the story. By using the raw elements of the crown itself, gold, jewels and all, Patrick Clair and the Elastic team take us through an elegant journey of the crown's formation, starting with gold found in its most solid state amongst rocks and minerals. And as it's melted into a liquid, it begins to take the shape of the crown, forming intricate patterns and symbols, and housing for some of the most precious stones and gems in royal history. Patrick Clair further states in his interview with The Guardian that it was about looking so closely at the crown that you start to see the rough edges, the rough beginnings, and the rich histories of all the various minerals and metals and jewels that have gone into it. Rough edges, rough beginnings, the intense stress and heat required to transform the solid material into a different liquid state. You can start to see the visual symbolism of Queen Elizabeth's story, can't you? It's the raw elements that form the foundation of the crown, both literally and figuratively. You can even connect the dots and see how the formation of the crown is highlighting Queen Elizabeth's transformation throughout the series as well. And if you pay close attention, it's also a great reminder of how perfectly imperfect us humans really are too. I mean, take a look at those close-up shots. Those imperfections are there for a deeper reason beyond photorealistic CGI. So that's the surface level transformation we've talked about. What about Queen Elizabeth's deeper transformation? What about her internal struggle, her personal story? Well, Patrick Clair had something to say about that too. Ultimately, a crown carries a very heavy symbolic weight for the person who wears it, which can be very isolating and destructive. There it is. It's not just about the formation of the crown itself and the journey the raw materials take to shape it, but rather what the symbolism of the crown means for the person wearing it. On the surface, it's a beautifully ornate statement piece of jewelry, but underneath it is a person who bears its weight. It's a symbol of status and perception, which we've come to learn from the Queen's story as a very delicate balancing act. Patrick Clair and the Elastic team were able to touch upon Queen Elizabeth's story both on a surface and much deeper level simultaneously with this title sequence, which I believe is visual storytelling at its finest. But how did Patrick and Elastic arrive at this concept for the title sequence? How did he and his team land on this particular sequence of shots to portray Queen Elizabeth's journey and story? Well, that may be something we'll have to ask him if he's ever interested in being a guest on the podcast. Patrick and everyone at Elastic, that's an open invitation, by the way. We would love to have you on the show. I hope this video about the protagonist journey and how it can be portrayed through a visual medium like a title sequence was valuable to you. If it was, please let us know what you enjoyed the most in the comments below. We would love to hear your feedback. And if you did enjoy this video, please feel free to give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and share this video with others who you think might enjoy it as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.